Whereas drop command helps to delete the entire data including heading, subheading, content, everything. When you want to delete, on that time we are using drop command. When we come on operators, there are three types of operators: arithmetic operators, relational operators, as well as logical operators. Whereas DML is used for insert the records, alter the contents in the table. Then if I want, I can able to do any manipulation also here. Welcome back to one and all. Myself, Vasanta, lecturer in Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, Pre-University College, Temple of Excellence, Mysore. Today, we will start with the revision class on structured query language. Whereas in the annual exam, from this chapter, you can expect 2 questions. In part B, 1 question for 2 marks, and in part D, 1 question for 5 marks. Totally 2 questions. Total weightage of this chapter is 7 marks in the annual exam, because 2 marks 1 question as well as 5 marks 1 question you can expect from this chapter. Whereas when you come on this SQL concept, there you will study regarding the introduction to SQL, what do you mean by SQL, for which purpose we required SQL commands, and what exactly we can able to perform by using SQL commands, how to create the table, how to alter, how to update, what do you mean by constraints, which are the data types we are using in this. These are the major concept you will study on this chapter. Whereas that is introduction to SQL, that is structured query language, then DDL commands, that is data definition language commands, DML commands, that is data manipulation language, then SQL constraints. SQL constraints means conditions, rules and regulations which we can follow in SQL. Then group function, under that sum, max, min, average, count, these are the few sum functions, especially under that group functions. When they come on for 2 marks, you can expect a question, write any 2 features of SQL. Features of SQL. When they come on features, it allows user to access data in a relational database management system. It mainly allows to access the data in a database. Consider you have the table. On this table, you have heading, attribute, all the data you have. To access this data or record or anything in the database, it helps to process that. And here, it allows to user to describe the data. Which are the data here, which data type it is, how much space it required. Everything it helps to describe here by using this SQL. Next, when you come on, explain DDL commands with example. Under that, compulsory, you have to mention what do you mean by DDL first. Then which are the commands under that you will get. Then how to write the syntax and example you have to write here. When we come on DDL commands, that is data definition language. It defines the conceptual schema, providing a link between the logical and physical structure of the database. When we come on DDL commands, under that we have 3 types: create, alter and drop. This question you can expect for 2 marks as well as 5 marks. If there is the same question for 5 marks, then with syntax and example you have to explain. If there is only for 2 marks, then which are the commands under DDL that you have to mention and just have to explain that. Whereas create command is used to create the table, which are the attributes here. That is, create a new table, a view of a table or other object in a database. It mainly to create the database. We required create command. And when they come on alter command, it modifies the existing database objects such as table. Consider we have the table student table. By using this, that we can able to create the table, for example register number, name as well as marks 1. Then whereas create command helps to create the empty table with which are the headings, which are the subheadings. Whereas alter command helps to alter the subheadings in the table, or if you want you can modify that. If you want you can add one more attribute. For example, here marks 1 we have, later on I want one more marks 2 subheading, then we are using alter command. Whereas drop command helps to delete the entire data including heading, subheading, content, everything When you want to delete, on that time we are using drop command. Drop command deletes an entire table here. A view of a table or other objects in a database. Helps to create, helps to alter the headings, helps to drop the entire table. Next question you have, that is, write the functions of DML. When you come on DML, that is data manipulation language. Whereas under DDL, we can create heading, subheading. Whereas by using DML, we can able to add the contents in the table. Whereas in the next question, write the functions of DML. When you come on DML, data manipulation language. It helps to manipulate the contents in the table. In the previous case, you have studied that. Here, we are just able to create the table heading as well as subheading. Whereas data manipulation language helps to manipulate or insert the records in this table. Whereas DML provides the data manipulation techniques like selection, insertion as well as deletion. DML facilitates the use of relationship between the record. These are the major functions of DML. Next, what is create view command? Create view, just a view of the table. Once again, if you want to see the same table with some other attributes or adding attribute or removing attribute, then we are using view command. Here, the database views are created using create view statement. By using create view statement, we can able to create view commands here. And view can be created from a single table, multiple table or another view also. Further, the syntax is create view. Which table you want to view? That view name as select column 1, column 2, whichever column you want you can write from table name where condition. This is a general syntax to represent the view command. Next question you have, that is explain SQL constraints with example. Already I told you, when you come on this DDL as well as DML, there DDL is to create the table, headings, subheadings or alter the table subheadings or drop the table. Whereas the DML is used for insert the records, alter the contents in the table. Then if I want, I can able to do any manipulation also here. Whereas when they come on SQL constraints, constraints is nothing but conditions. Whichever conditions we want, that conditions here we can able to apply. That is, constraints are the rules, we can say. Conditions, constraints are but rules or conditions enforced on the data columns on the table. These are used to limit the type of data that can go into a table. And here the constraints available in SQL are primary key, foreign key, not null, unique key as well as check. These are the few constraints in SQL we are using. Then what do you mean by this primary key? Primary key is a key, it's a unique key used to access or control only one record. By that only I can access a particular record here. That unique value will never repeat for anybody. For example, if a register number, name, marks 1 and marks 2, on that time we cannot consider name as a primary key because there is a probability of repeating the same name once again. If I want to consider the register number is primary key, then that number will never repeat. That is, primary key is a unique key used to access the record in that particular table. Then under that, the constraints can be defined in two ways. The constraints can be specified immediately after column definition. This is called as column level definition. And one more, the constraints can be specified after all columns are defined. This can be called as table level constraints. Now one by one let's apply. The first one is primary key. Already I told you this helps to make the particular column by unique value that will never repeat for anybody. That is, this constraint defines a column or a combination of columns which uniquely identify each row in a table. Further, the general syntax is constraints, constraints name, then primary key to mention. If you observe this example, here we are creating a table employee. The table name we are given as employee. Then under that we have three attributes, ID, name as well as age. For ID, we are given number 5 and we are making it as primary key. It means that for a student database, I can make the rich number as a primary key. Here I am making that ID as a primary key, then name as well as age. These are the three attributes. Under these three attributes, number, especially ID, is the primary key we are defining here. Next constraint, that is foreign or referential integrity. Whereas foreign key means here this attributes is present in one table, but the same attributes acts like a primary key in another table. In one table that attribute is present, but the same attributes work as a primary key in another table. That is nothing but foreign key. It establishes a relationship between two columns in the same table or between different tables. While writing the syntax, constraints name, then reference table name, then column name. If you observe here, create table product. That is the table name here we are given as product. Under that, product ID is one attribute, then product name is another attribute, supplier name is one attribute. For the first one, we are given number format 5 and constraints, that is product ID is primary key here. And here product name is character format as well as supplier name also we are going to consider character format. Inside the bracket we are written 20. It means that for name maximum 20 characters it can take. Next one, not null constraints. It means that that particular column cannot be null value. While entering the record, if I'm not going to enter any values to that particular column, it's not supposed to consider that record. Compulsory on that particular column, we have to enter the value. That is not null constraints. Null means there you are not supposed to enter any value, or not null means compulsory. You have to attend some values there. Then this constraint ensures that all rows in a table contains definite value for the column which is specified as not null. Compulsory for that particular column, we have to enter the value. Syntax, constraints name, then not null you have to mention. For example, create table, we are creating one table, call it as employee. On this employee table, we have 4 attributes, that is ID, and one more is name, and one more is department, and one more is age. Under this name, we are making the constraints, especially not null here. But it means that compulsory we have to enter the name of that particular employee. If I not enter, then it will not going to consider that record. Next constraint, that is unique constraints. Or here the name itself suggests that uniquely. It means that that value if I am going to enter the once again for the same or another record, then it will not going to consider the unique value in the table. That is, this constraint ensures that a column or a group of column in each row have distinct value. Compulsory, the value should be different. Then the syntax to represent constraints name unique here you have to write. If you observe this example, here we are creating the table employee with the same attributes ID, name, department as well as age. For ID, I am writing the constraints is unique. It means that if I am going to write the same number once again, same ID number for one more record, then it will not going to consider here. That means at the time of creation only, I will make ID as unique value. Next one, check constraints. When they come on check constraints, it will check the conditions. For example, if I want to enter the marks, maximum limit itself 100 for example. If I am going to enter the marks is 101, it's not supposed to take. Minimum, if I want, I can enter 0. If it is less than 0, is it possible to enter the marks? No. Then here, check constraints helps to check the conditions here. This constraint defines the business rule. On a column, all row must satisfy this rule. Compulsory, it has to satisfy. Under that constraints name, compulsory check. Afterwards, it write the condition. Here, consider one more table, that is employee only. Here we have took 4 attributes, ID, name, department as well as age. For age, we are written check age is less than 100 we are given. It means that if I want to enter the age greater than 100 or equals to 100, here we are not able to insert any records. At the time of creation only I will making the age limit is less than 100. Now is it clear? This is regarding the constraints. The next question, explain relational operations in SQL. When we come on operators, there are three types of operators: arithmetic operators, relational operators, as well as logical operators. Arithmetic operators also you can expect for 5 marks. Relational operator also you can expect for 5 marks, as well as logical operators also you can expect for 5 marks. Whereas in this question, relational operator. Whereas relational operators will see the relation between two operands. For example, if I have A plus B, then plus is the operator, A and B can be called as operand. In between two operands, what is the relation especially? If I want to say the relation, both are equals, greater than or equals to, less than or equals to, not equals to or equals to, like that, I can say the relation between two operands. Whereas under that, the first one is equals. It check if values of two operands are equal or not. If yes, then condition becomes true here. For example, we are initializing A equals 10, B equals 20. Here A is not equals to B, that's why here not equals to, it will display. It is not true here. Then not equals. Here it check the value of two operands are equal or not. If value are not equal, then condition become true here. See, A value we are given 10 and B value we are given as 20. Then condition satisfied because both are not same. Then it will display as true here. Then here we are less than. It check the value. If the value of the left operand is less than the value of right operand. If S, then condition becomes true here. For example, here 10 we are given, for 20 we are given, for B we are initialized 20. A is less than B, then it will display as true. Then greater than, here A is 10, B is 20, then here it is not true. Then less than or equals to, then A is 10, B is 20, here is true, here A is less than. One condition at least it is satisfied, that's why the value we are going to display as true here. That means these are the few relational operators. Next, we will move on, explain the various group functions in SQL. It's very important because group function means it will consider all the records. Under that, it will generate one single information from that. Under that, when we come on group functions, are the built-in SQL functions that operates on group of rows and returns one value from the entire group. Only one value we can get from that entire group. And here under that, the first one is count function, whereas count function helps to count totally how many records are there in the table. That is, this function returns the number of rows in the table that satisfies the condition in where condition. Here, select count star from employee. Then it means that from employee table, how many records are there, it just count and display that. Then one more group function we have, distinct. Whereas distinct function helps to remove the duplication in the records. This function is used to select the distinct rows. Distinct row, distinct means repetitions can be avoided, duplications can be avoided here. Select count distinct name if I am going to write. Then it will select only the names which is not repeated and from employee table. And max function helps to get the maximum value in that particular column. For example, select max salary from employee. Then from employee column, under that employee table, under salary column, it will take only the maximum value. Next one, min function. Whereas the name itself suggesting minimum value, it will select. For example, in this employee table, we are selecting the salary whose value is very minimum here. That is, this is used to get the minimum value from a column. And the next one is AVG. AVG stands for average function. To find the average of that particular column, we are using this AVG function. Use it to get the average value from a numeric column. Select AVG salary if I am going to write. Then, especially here I are given employee table. Then from employee table, it will select the average salary. Then sum function helps to count the total values on that particular column. Use it to get the sum of numeric column. It means that select sum salary from employee. Then in the employee table, especially under salary column, it will find the sum. These are the few group built-in functions. Then in the next class, we will start with a new chapter. Whereas on this session, we explained regarding SQL. What do you mean by SQL? Which are the commands under that? That is DDL commands, DML commands, as well as how the commands can be used, how we are writing the commands, as well as syntax for all those. What do you mean by constraints? Under that, which are the constraints you have, how to use that in the program, regarding that you have studied. Thank you for all of you.